Written Before I Got One by Charles Bukowski. The best writers now, I'm told, have word processors. I'm not even sure what a word processor is, but no matter. The tree roots tangled in my mother's bones. No matter. The shadows in the forgotten canyon. No matter. The dream of the last elephant. I'm not getting one, whatever it is. But I hope it helps the best writers get better, because I could never read them anyhow. And any boost for them, major or minor, will help us all, right? Oh, hello there. I didn't see you guys come in. I was just reading a little bit of Charles Bukowski, sifting through the madness for the word, the line, the way. Today, Bukowski's talking about word processors, and he probably wrote this on a piece of paper or maybe even a typewriter. He certainly didn't write it on a word processor, but eventually, like everyone else of his or any generation of writers, at least recently, they break down and they get a word processor. I remember Tom Robbins' book, Still Life with Woodpecker. Great book by Tom Robbins. And he talks about his typewriter. He'd just gotten a brand new, I think it was a Remington Rand electric portable. And he didn't know if you could tell a love story on such an electric beast. And the way it typed so quickly, it didn't allow him a chance to think. He used to use an Olivetti or something, and he liked that better. And constantly throughout the narrative of Still Life, Tom Robbins is interrupting, talking about his typewriter, questioning what he's using to write the novel. And it's a bit of a spoiler, but towards the end of the book, he gets rid of the typewriter and finishes the novel handwritten. It's a very great book, not just for the typewriter references. But I also got another cool thing in the mail from Amazon. I got my Star Trek Ships of the Line 2019 calendar. That's right, it's entirely Star Trek ship porn for those who like looking at ships. So, very much looking forward to the next year. Pretty early for a calendar, August, I agree. But Amazon had it on sale and they saw me buy all the other Star Trek stuff and they're like, you'd like this too. And I had no choice because I like it. So I also got a brand new web camera. Hello, brand new camera too. Very HD. You can see all of my imperfections, questionable lighting. I tried to shift a bunch of buttons, get the brightness, get the contrast working right. I don't know if it's working. My eyes look blue. It's reflecting the monitor back. But let's move on and let's go to Bitcoin Talk Show. Today is Wednesday, August 8th, 2018. My name is Thomas Hunt, and here's what's happening today in Bitcoin. The price of Bitcoin was down 3.59% in the last 24 hours, with a last of 6,480, a high of 7,135, and a low of 6,405. That's $1 for 15,438 Satoshis. Looks like we're on the other side of the 15,000 Satoshi barrier. Checking out the top 10 altcoins, now sorted by volume. Ethereum down 3%, Bitcoin Cash down 8%, EOS down 10.5%, Ethereum Classic down 7%, Litecoin down 4.5%, Ripple down 10%, Dash up 1%, Tron down 10%, and something I've never heard of except in the Hobbit books, Mithril down 4.75%, rounding out the top 10 altcoins sorted by volume. We're also taking a look at DApp Radar, where we can see the most popular and the general lack of usage of distributed applications. Rounding out the top 5, we've got IDX with 1,500 users. Below that, FOMO 3D, only 850, Fork Delta 780, POW H3D 450 users, and rounding out the top 5 is ETHTown with 350 users. That's not thousands, that's singles. We're checking at blocktivity.info, seeing the most active blockchains, just going to give you the top 5. The most active blockchains right now are EOS, BitShare, Steem, Ethereum, and Bitcoin. Of these five, Bitcoin seems to be near 50% usage. Ethereum is the only one with 100% blockchain usage and 7,000 to 72,000 unconfirmed transactions. The rest of these blockchains seem to be functioning fine, with Bitcoin being the only one with real active usage at 49.11%. Ethereum being full up, probably not working that well. As always, you can support the World Crypto Network by donating to the Bitcoin QR code on your screen right now, or any of the eight crazy altcoins, all of which are down. We're all losing our shirts today on the crazy altcoins. You can also subscribe to the World Crypto Network at patreon.com/WCN. 31 patrons are donating $234 a month to support this show. You can join for as little as $5 a month. Join now at patreon.com. You can also support this show at patreon.com/madbitcoins, where 80 patrons have donated $480 a month to support this show, very close to that $500 barrier. We've also got our fundraiser on Tallycoin, which has actually gone down in value recently, but maintains the same Bitcoin balance. We've raised now $191.86. Check out the QR code on your screen right now to donate to our Tallycoin campaign, where we're attempting to raise $1 million to spread the word about Bitcoin. And this is pretty much how it feels this morning. We've got a guy with a wheel. He's a comic strip. He says, "Let's give this sucker a spin." And every space on the wheel is shit. Every space is shit. Over $9 billion wiped off Bitcoin's value after SEC postpones a key decision on a cryptocurrency ETF. That's right, we were waiting until August 10th, just 2 days from now, to get the decision from the SEC on the first Bitcoin ETF. However, they've pushed it back to February. February is now the decision date for the ETF. As always, it is the final decision point. They cannot push it back any further. However, pushing back the ETF has led a bunch of people who are holding Bitcoin short term, looking for the ETF boost, to instead of hold, to sell. The Bitcoin outlook sours as the price sheds 70% of recent rally. More analysis from Coindesk and Omkar Godbol. Let's go straight to the view. Bitcoin's drop to 3-week lows below 6,400 has likely strengthened the bear grip and opened the doors to $6,000, the psychological support. The cryptocurrency might consolidate around $6,500 in the next 24 hours, as suggested by the 4-hour chart, before resuming the sell-off. Only a high volume break above the falling channel seen in the 4-hour chart would shift risk in favor of a retest of $7,200. And let's look at this 4-hour chart, see if we can get it bigger. Here it is. We can see right here we have a presumed failed breakout of Bitcoin where it did not break this falling channel. Then we fell to the end of the falling channel. And like he says, to re-break this, we would have to break the falling channel convincingly up to $7,200. The RSI is reporting oversold conditions, so it is possible that we bounce. But who knows how much and who knows how long. Financial Conduct Authority issues a warning to UK Bitcoin investors. Once again, the old system is getting involved to warn people about the new system. They say there's a platform called Fair Oaks Crypto that seems to be masquerading as a cryptocurrency trading platform, but does not have authorization from the FCA, which is currently a legal requirement in the UK. In fact, any company offering any form of financial service needs to have FCA regulation and approval in order to be able to trade. Keep your eye out for Fair Oaks Crypto or Fair Oaks Capital in the United Kingdom. The crypto market has lost 20% of its value in 2 weeks, and Bitcoin is still dropping. I guess it's time to give up, right? Everyone should sell. Sell, sell, sell. Cowards. Speculators, not drug dealers, dominate Bitcoin use now. Interesting article from Forbes where a DEA agent who said 5 years ago her analysis of blockchain data showed criminal activity was behind about 90% of transactions in the cryptocurrency. Now, illegal activity has shrunk to about 10%, and speculation has become the dominant driver. This doesn't mean that criminals have stopped using Bitcoin. It simply means that so many more people are using Bitcoin that the criminal activity has decreased as a percentage of Bitcoin usage. As she says, the volume has grown tremendously. The amount of transactions and the dollar value has grown tremendously over the years in criminal activity, but the ratio has decreased. The majority of transactions are used for price speculation. New Yale study. Every portfolio should include at least 6% Bitcoin. A new research paper published by an economics professor at Yale University recommends a portfolio with at least 6% Bitcoin, saying that those who are less enthusiastic about the world's most popular cryptocurrency should hold 4% of it. In any case, regardless of your position on the matter, Bitcoin should comprise a minimum 1% of your portfolio just for diversification purposes. And right now, it's just an economics professor writing this article and warning individuals that they should have Bitcoin in their portfolios. But this is likely true for institutions as well. Imagine a central bank or even a normal bank that doesn't hold 6 to 4% of Bitcoin. They would be falling behind by this professor's ideas. And if a bank were to buy 6% of Bitcoin of their holdings, that's a significant amount. And it would alert the other banks who would likely try to buy 6% of their holdings in Bitcoin. They can't be trusted even by each other. Bitcoin may be a legal form of payment, says Brazilian presidential candidate. That's right. Politics is taking off in Brazil as a new candidate who's running for the presidency is saying that Bitcoin could be a legal method of payment in Brazil. Now we see Bitcoin as a political issue being used by one party against the other party in Brazil. This idea will spread. The politicians, much like the banks, can't stay away from Bitcoin. They're going to have to get involved. And when one of them gets involved, the others will have to get involved. No doubt his opponent is looking at Bitcoin right now, wondering if it's worthwhile. Introducing a rare example of the architectural movement, Muppet brutalism. Look at that poor Muppet being forced to hold up the entire building. Great picture from Twitter. The Bitcoin second layer. Check out Nick Bhattia's new article about the Lightning Network reference rate, now on Medium. Also, check him on Twitter. As he says, critics of Bitcoin often incorrectly identify a feature of Bitcoin, its slow speed, as a flaw. Bitcoin's confirmation process is meant to be slow because of security reasons. The intent of Bitcoin is censorship resistant, scarce digital cash, not a speedy payment solution. The best way to think about Bitcoin's base layer protocol is as a final settlements layer. The final settlement of physical gold is also a slow, clunky, and expensive process. Once again, slow speed in Bitcoin, not a bug, but a feature. It allows us to have two layers, the settlement layer of Bitcoin, where slow and large transactions can be finished, and the quick and easy, almost fee-free Lightning Network above it. And if necessary, other networks could be built above the Lightning Network, etc., etc. The Bitcoin Lightning Network channel value by month in February 4, March 5, April 10, May 18, June 24, July 30, and August 97 Bitcoins in the Lightning Network. They said it couldn't happen. They said it wouldn't work. But it seems like the Lightning Network is working just fine. I watched a movie yesterday. It was a cute romantic comedy called She's Out of My League, about a nerd and a normal looking guy trying to date a supermodel looking girl. A very fun movie with a very young pre Silicon Valley baby faced TJ Miller playing in a Hall and Oates cover band. It was fun, it was on cable, and it was free. So She's Out of My League. Once again, I compare all movies I watched today to Jurassic World 2. This movie was much better than Jurassic World 2. The things that the characters did made sense. The scenes connected together. There was a real plot. I haven't seen a movie as bad as Jurassic World 2 yet, but then they're making a Jurassic World 3, so I'm sure I could just wait for that. I went to a fun local casino last night and I saw these two machines next to each other. I just had to tell you guys about them. There's a Big Lebowski machine and a Downton Abbey machine right next to each other. Maybe a husband and wife slot machine combo. The wife can play Downton Abbey and the husband can play the Big Lebowski. They'll both lose all their money because slot machines are a terrible investment, maybe the worst investment in the world. And that's about it for the news portion of today's Bitcoin talk show. I'm going to go ahead and unmute the phone lines here. Google's hiding the controls. That is their way. But you can go ahead and call us now at Skype World Crypto Network, all one word. Also, I wanted to go ahead and check out yesterday's comments. I don't have this ready, but I'll pull it up now. We had a lot of great comments yesterday. We discussed Alex Jones and a lot of the issues that are going on in the world today, the censorship and so forth. Let's see if I can get the chat out of the way and read you guys some comments. And again, if you want to comment back in the chat, that's fine. If you disagree, it's also fine. But remember, we're having a discussion here. So I state my opinions, you state your opinions, we discuss them. And at the end of it, we say, okay, we agree to disagree. I might not agree with you, you might not agree with me, but we both got a chance to say our side. If we convinced anyone in the audience, we convinced them. Otherwise, so it is. So let's read this comment today by Tagnar, at least part of it. He says, nationalizing Facebook and YouTube is a horrible idea on many, many levels. And I just want to explain that I agree with him. I agree that nationalizing Facebook and YouTube is a horrible idea, but I was using it as an example to explain to people the difference between a public utility like the power company or the water company and a public company like Facebook. A public company like Facebook has sold their stock on the public stock exchange, so they are public on the market, but they are not a public utility like the water company. If we wanted to monopolize them, we could make them into a public utility, and then the free speech arguments that people were bringing up would have some kind of a stay because it's part of the government, it's public utility. As of right now, Facebook, YouTube, Google, Twitter, etc., are private companies and they can decide who's on their platform. I don't have to do very much to push it too far, but let's say someone was posting nonstop pictures of dead babies. Twitter or Facebook, etc., could say, this is our private property. We choose not to promote your pictures of dead babies. We're kicking you off Facebook and YouTube, right? That's private property. Now, Alex Jones has said some crazy things. I don't know if he's shown pictures of dead babies, but you get my example. YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, these other services decided he'd said too many crazy things, and they kicked him off for violating their rules. They're a private company. They have private space. They can do this. I don't agree with, I'm not saying I agree with their censorship or not, but I'm trying to explain to you that as a company, they have to draw the line somewhere. If somebody was posting nonstop dead babies, et cetera, example, terrible example, obviously, but they would have to do something. They have to have some kind of rules. Sant Gallus says, yeah, Dr. Strangelove is Satoshi, proving that someone does like my book readings at the beginning of the show. I read a little bit of a Kubrick book yesterday. It was pretty cool. This guy says meaning Zuckerberg, is a shill for the government. Okay, so he's got an opinion. He says, life at CIA turned into Facebook. Interesting. This guy says the market's being manipulated and keep making your videos and keep making money until people don't listen anymore. Well, I think it's okay. I don't think people are here to really make money or not make money. We discuss the news, and if discussing the news helps you make decisions on trading, that's great. But we're not officially giving any trading advice. We don't know the future, nor do we claim to. And anyone that tells you they do know the future is probably lying, unless they have a time machine. I enjoyed this comment from Rad Vladdy. I'm going to go ahead and read some of it. And we had a little back and forth, which is great. If you guys want to comment after the video, it stays around a little bit longer than the chat. We have a lot of chat messages, but not a lot of comments. So I'd say if you want to come back when the video finishes, add a comment, have a discussion in the comments, not just in the chat. But Rad Vladdy says, In terms of the censorship, do I understand correctly that there was a simultaneous banning from not just Facebook, but the other platforms? Doesn't that suggest that the decision actually didn't come from Facebook, but from above them, i.e., government? And this is a perfectly fair argument. Things did just seem to happen all at one time, which could mean that they were enforced or they were meant to do that. But like I say here, not necessarily. They could just be acting like a herd, like the banks adopting Bitcoin. They do it because the other one did it. Dominoes, but no prime mover. Just a needle that broke the camel's back. And I think when you start seeing news stories that YouTube has banned them and Facebook has banned them, and you're sitting there at Twitter, you might just say, or Pinterest is a good example, I think. Pinterest just shrugs their shoulders and says, well, those other guys are banning them. We should ban them too. And it's a lot of it's a PR move, right? They're going to look bad. They're going to be the one company that didn't ban them. And right now, that company is Twitter. I don't, you guys are probably in favor of it. And we go both ways on this, but yeah, Twitter has said that Alex Jones has not broken their rules, and if he does break their rules, they'll probably kick him off. And there it is. So let's keep going. We got some interesting comments in the chat. And remember, I have the option to hide your comments in the chat. Generally, I don't. A lot of times, YouTube marks a word as a bad word, and you guys get automatically hidden. And I put you back in the conversation because I want to have a discussion here. So keep that in mind. Rad Vladdy pushes back. He says, so their rules and algorithms are informed by other social networks. Do you really think that's what's going on, or just plausible deniability? And he thinks it's awful suspicious. And I go back with the classic Occam's razor. The simplest answer is usually the correct one. These things always go in waves, site after site, banning someone mainly because the other sites ban them. I am surprised at Twitter, but again, that's perhaps the exception that proves the rule. So we go back and forth on this. Let's keep going. Greg Cooper, censorship. Anyone with a brain or worth following with some important information and an ability to read terms of services pages has no need to draw any further conclusions. It's like a trespass warning sign. Read all of it or don't. It doesn't immediately change the consequences. And this reminds me of something else that came up on Twitter yesterday, that Alex Jones's own InfoWars community has a banning policy. And they say that in their policy, it's something along the lines of, in society, there are rules. If you violate our rules, we will remove you from our community. So just a little bit of hypocrisy there, that InfoWars would ban you probably for the same things that InfoWars said. A little bit of blowback on the Ross here. What crimes did Ross commit? Building a website is a crime. That's kind of off the off the topic today. Let's see. Simply Connected says, it is disgusting to defend YouTube censorship. I couldn't care less if they are a private company. Without us, the people who use it, they would be nothing. They have no right to filter what people are allowed to watch. That is unconstitutional. Private, selfish people do not have any right to manipulate society according to their own self interest. And this is just kind of a bizarre comment. Sorry, man. I don't agree with you on a lot of this. Private companies do have the right to decide who uses their company. They do have the right to decide what customers they want to serve and so forth. But we are going to expand that in a minute because we're going to go both ways on that because it's a complex issue. But really, again, the right to filter what people are allowed to watch, they do this all the time. They've always been filtering things. Television is a filter. And the Constitution doesn't allow you control over television or Facebook or other things like that. It's really, this is a private property issue. You may think that these things are like public utilities because they have so much power and because so many people use them and they're so ubiquitous in our life. But once again, we did not nationalize them. No one nationalized Facebook. People talked about it, and maybe it's a good idea, maybe it's a bad idea. That's a big, big, big can of worms. But in general, to have the kind of top-down control that you seem to want, we would have to nationalize them. Roy Westberger says, YouTube is our own private video provider. No one else can have it. Trump is our own private president. Nobody else, no other country can have him. But wait, we voted for both. If the masses vote for something, it's public. Actually, more masses vote for public YouTube than public Trump, and or private YouTube and private Trump. So I'm not sure what he's saying there, but it's great that YouTube is our own private video provider and that we're fortunate to use it. D88209 Crypto Faucet List writes in, it says that everyone knows conservative views are being scrubbed off the internet before the midterms. I'm Canadian, and even I can see this. And I have heard rumors of people being kicked off of Twitter and being shadow banned. Again, it's probably down the same lines where they violated the rules, they flaunted the rules, they acted like they weren't on private property, and then they got removed from private property. But we can agree to disagree and we can discuss this more. Rad Vladdy says he agrees with me. He says, oh, we got a phone call. Hold on a sec. Hello, caller. You're live on the World Crypto Network. What's your name and where are you calling from? We can discuss this more. Got to turn your speaker down. Listen to your phone.
Hello.
Hello. What's your name and where are you calling from?
Hi, Thomas. It's just Zach here from Christchurch, New Zealand.
How's it going, Zach? What's on your mind about Bitcoin today?
I thought I'd weigh in on Alex Jones.
Sure, go ahead.
Yeah, I've been listening to what you've been saying, and I thought a little bit about it. I was kind of sad when I heard he was banned, because though he is a little bit crazy and says crazy things, I have actually learned a little bit from Alex Jones. He has had the odd documentaries made and video clip he's put out there, which even stories in mainstream media haven't really covered, like the whole Tony Robinson thing. I learned about Bilderberg and a lot about that through him. So yeah, it is a little bit sad, but I think maybe it speaks to how YouTube is changing as a company, and maybe YouTube's becoming more kind of like a television company. I know you guys there at the World Crypto Network, you'd say it how it is, but you guys pick your words well and you're quite respectful. And as far as I know, you guys have never had any trouble with YouTube.
Yeah, no, we haven't had any trouble. Just the occasional where you make a mistake, maybe you use someone else's music in your video and they'll flag you for that. But that's a copyright issue. That's never been a content issue. Content wise, we've been fine with YouTube. But I agree with you. Alex has had a lot of stories that no one else would cover that he would cover. But that said, he's also had a lot of stories no one else would cover because they were false. And he falls into those traps, maybe on purpose. There's a bit of a provocateur in Alex, and I found that especially true after his divorce case, where he came out and he said that he was playing a character and that he doesn't believe some of the things he says, and that's really complicated Alex in my mind. I remember Rush Limbaugh in the '90s talking a big talk on the radio how against he was against Clinton and all these things. And in the same way, later on, we learned that Rush also saw himself as a provocateur, more of a carnival barker, right? Some of the things he says are true, but his goal is to get you excited, to rile you up. And whatever the line was crossed. YouTube, these other companies decided they'd had enough of this line crossing of this provocateur, and they put him to the side, is what it looks like to me.
Yeah, I think a lot of these provocateurs use a lot of comedy. There's always a very comedic streak in them, which is, it means they can push the envelope a little bit. And I definitely respect YouTube's right to kick them off the platform, at least for now, anyway. And I was listening to your video. I think you made it yesterday, and you're actually saying that Alex Jones has been very advantageous for him. He's managed to sell a lot of merchandise. He's always hocking off some kind of health product or vitamin or some, all these different things. Prepper, kit, whatnot. So he has made a lot of money off YouTube. I just think YouTube is becoming like there are some. I'll tell you what, Thomas. The other day, I was doing my YouTube searches, and the same videos from the same channels kept coming up, and I was just like, oh, I'm really having to click, next page, next page, next page, and I went into the Chrome extension store or whatever it's called, and I downloaded a YouTube video channel blocker. So if you have channels which are just always popping up in your searches, sure, like a lot of people which are into crypto know what I'm talking about. You always have people who you kind of think, well, these people don't really know what they're talking about. It's a shame they keep coming up in my searches. You can actually block those channels. So I really thought to myself, maybe YouTube is wanting to become more kind of a television company. And, you know, a lot of people use YouTube to have video streaming on their own websites. They can upload their videos to YouTube and then embed that in their websites. That's really handy. And yeah, video storage and whatnot. So, I mean, there is the little guy who uses YouTube not because they want to be YouTube famous or have tens of thousands of hits. It's just a really good service for communicating information in a video form. So I think people who are starting channels on YouTube, if they do get a huge following, it is, you know, to their, you know, they have to be responsible. And Alex Jones, you know, he wasn't being responsible. But the concern is you don't always want to, you know, sure, there are impressionable people out there which will hear what Alex Jones says and they may do some stupid things. But again, you don't always want to be, you know, catering to the lowest common denominator. You want to, you know, obviously make high quality, you know, you want your, yeah, if that kind of makes sense where I'm trying to go there.
Oh, sure. Well, and I agree with you. I think if we look at the recent products released by YouTube, we'll see that their most recent product is called YouTube TV. And it's literally what you're talking about. You can get all of your normal channels on YouTube. You can watch live sports like ESPN on YouTube. And it has nothing to do with what this platform was created for, which was individual normal people making videos. And sure, after a little while, the individual normal people gave way to a whole bunch of copyright infringement. And this platform was all about copyright infringement for a long time, and it still is in a lot of areas. If you search for the words full movie, you'll get a lot of full movies on YouTube that aren't supposed to be there. But somehow that was all okay, and Google bought them and made lots of money off them anyway. But I agree with you. Yeah, YouTube's probably trying to clean up their act, clean up their location, and there just must have been some straw that broke the camel's back on this one. Conspiratorial people are saying it's the election and it's all these other things, but I'm not sure that Alex Jones really moves the needle. He's not really mainstream enough, I think, to have a large enough audience to move the election. But it's definitely happening. It's definitely changing. But once again, with the real free and open internet, anyone can start their own YouTube. They can start their own website, and it can be at the exact same speed as YouTube. Of course, that's not true anymore because they've gotten rid of net neutrality. So this could be leading us to a world where Alex Jones, forced to use his own server, is put in the slow lane because Alex doesn't have the money to pay Comcast to get in the fast lane, whereas YouTube will be in the fast lane. Now we can see how changing the architecture of the internet, getting rid of net neutrality, leads us to a worse position where YouTube is now an even more powerful gatekeeper because of the bandwidth situation.
Um, would net neutrality affect myself here in New Zealand, or is that more of an American kind of issue you guys are having over there? I watched a video trying to debunk this argue. I've always been for net neutrality, but I always like to inform myself of the opposite opinion, if you know what I mean, because it's good to know both sides of the argument.
Sure.
And I came away a bit befuddled, and I just kind of thought, well, I'm happy with how things are in New Zealand. But do you think that seeps through globally? I mean, you obviously know a little bit more about that than me.
I'm not sure. I haven't thought about it out of the country very much. Mainly, I know that in the United States, the ISPs could offer slow lanes and fast lanes. I'm not sure if this idea would spread to other countries or if New Zealand has a specific law enforcing net neutrality. But likely, the same thing will eventually drift to you. And more importantly, it affects you anyway, because if the new Twitter was going to start, but the new Twitter couldn't get enough money to go in the fast lane, there's a possibility that the new Twitter never gets big enough to spread to New Zealand. And so you miss out on a new service simply because the American rules make it impossible for anyone to compete on the internet anymore, unless you have millions and billions of dollars to pay for the fast lane.
I think we are seeing. Obviously, I understand what you're saying about fast lanes and slow lanes, But and obviously, if you're someone new in the market, that can be a huge problem. But I think we are seeing a lot of divergence. I mean, I really like Reddit, and there are some New Zealand social media platforms that I use here. So there's like LinkedIn now. So if you don't want to be on YouTube, but you want maybe a professional, I don't know how professional LinkedIn is. I don't even have an account, but I hear people go on LinkedIn, and there's a lot of different options people have. But I mean, obviously, YouTube is the big one for video streaming. I'm surprised that there haven't been other companies that have come into the market. I mean, I know there's been DTube, and people have tried to have more, and Steam, or whatever it is. But I'm surprised there hasn't been more competition, to be honest.
There's a couple of smaller sites like Vimeo and so forth, but it's really hard to compete with YouTube. I can tell you as a content creator, um, I want people to watch my videos, so I put them on YouTube because YouTube gives me a chance at being discovered. Like right now, if people give us a bunch of thumbs up, we have 136 viewers right now. If we get those thumbs up, YouTube's algorithm will start promoting us to other viewers, and we might get to 150 viewers. When you're on another platform like Vimeo or DTube or even Steemit, it's so much harder to get noticed and recognized because there are just so many less people there. In a lot of ways, just the pure number of people on YouTube makes it the most popular platform and very difficult to get away from. Just like Facebook, so many of your friends are on Facebook. You could go use a different service, but you're not going to get your friends pictures of their vacation because those are on Facebook.
And the marketplace is very helpful. I use it for the marketplace, and there are a few groups. There's housing groups. We've got a housing crisis going on in New Zealand. So there's a few housing groups which are really helpful for rental properties. So like, if it wasn't for the housing groups and the marketplace with Facebook, I wouldn't be on it. But you are right about that. I mean, sometimes these companies do get the market share, and you do feel a bit roped in. Um, so I do sympathise with people when it comes to Alex Jones, who say, it's terrible, he's been banned and whatnot. Because I do understand that it is such kind of a monopoly at the moment. But again, it isn't, it is private property. It's not, a utility as such. So it is in one of those kind of quasi spaces where we just have to see how this all plays out. I mean, the world's going to look a lot different in 5 years' time than it does now. So a lot of the issues that we are talking about now may not be relevant in 5 years' time, although what we do about the issues now could change what the world is like in 5 years' time. So that's something to think about, I suppose.
And I agree. It's okay to be mad and it's okay to be upset when someone's banned or someone's removed. Maybe you like their content, maybe other people don't like their content. I know sometimes this happens with comedy. I think most everything is funny, so I have no problem with someone making fun of this or that. Often a comedian will be banned or shut down because of something they said that wasn't funny but really was. And all of that's very subjective. So it's okay to be upset about it, but it's not okay to lash out with this, YouTube shouldn't be allowed to censor type thing because it gets in the way with your other arguments. If the rest of the time you're arguing in favor of private property, in favor of companies having the right to control their platforms, which again, if YouTube was full of dead baby videos everywhere and every other video you clicked on was a dead baby, you'd stop using YouTube. Therefore, YouTube as a private property needs to censor dead baby videos from their platform so that normal people can enjoy the platform. That's part of their ability to do business. If you take away that ability, you take away their ability to do business. So,
Absolutely. And, they have the liability as well. I mean, they can't have content on their page which is going to incite anything. I mean, they have, there's a responsibility with private property, You don't want, dead escorts floating in your pool. You're going to have to answer some questions.
definitely, they do have the liability, and that's the same thing. We let them censor because we also blame them when they don't censor properly, like the guy on Pizzagate who went to the pizza shop with a machine gun or whatever, went with a shotgun or some kind of thing. YouTube and these other platforms, in some way, could be held liable. They could be held responsible for that. So they have to take this protection as a private business, as a company.
I think people, obviously, there's always going to be examples of a platform so big of double standards. And I think people probably feel that. I think a lot of people that are angry about it, or are kind of free speech is, and even here in New Zealand, we had a couple of speakers, Lauren Southern and Stefan, some Canadian speakers, suppose that they were called far right, and they had some out there views, if you ask me. But they came to speak in New Zealand, and as a country, we were just like, no deal. So they didn't even manage to get a venue here. But there were a lot of people here that thought, they should have been allowed to speak at a council venue in Auckland. But the mayor of Auckland here said, no, we're not going to let these people speak in our council venues. So they went to get a private venue, a place called the Lighthouse, and they weren't, they had it all booked, but a few hours before that, obviously the owners of the Lighthouse were rung up by a lot of concerned people, and that venue was cancelled for them, and they, ended up leaving the country. But I'll tell you what, they got so much free publicity here for their YouTube channels and whatnot, just by being denied their freedom of speech. So it kind of backfired. Like sometimes, yeah. So I don't know. I understand here in New Zealand we've had those issues as well. I mean, there's another politician here, quite a respectable fellow, and he was denied speaking at one of our universities. So, I mean, even in New Zealand, the whole I don't know, the partisanship has flowed into New Zealand. And I think some of that has actually flowed into New Zealand from things like Facebook and YouTube, because we do get a lot of the American media and culture. And I mean, we do most of the articles here in New Zealand. New Zealand's quite a liberal place. Like a lot of most of the articles are always against your president. So, I mean, not necessarily against him, but, just very condescending towards him. So, yeah, it is a big thing in the Western world, just the whole freedom of speech. I think a lot of it is just a lot of financial problems. And again, that's why we, have the, your channel like this. I mean, I think there are a lot of people out there which society, they've just tuned out because what they're seeing through the mainstream kind of media isn't really meeting what their economic situation is. And they're trying to find voices like yours, Thomas, and some of them, obviously resonate with Alex Jones's crazy way, and it is kind of a comedy for people and a bit of an outlet. But it is really finding where is that line. But so long as we've got freedom of speech and not freedom from speech, we're going in the right direction. But I'll let someone else call in, Thomas. There, I don't want to take up all your time.
Well, I definitely agree with you that there's no such thing as bad press, and a lot of people get pilloried for their speech or whatever, and they come back even stronger. So that's definitely true. And I would also just want to second that idea that there is freedom of speech, but there's not speech free of consequences, right? If you go out there and you speak a bunch of Nazi stuff, or you speak a bunch of racist stuff, or whatever you want to say, sure, you can say that, and I'll defend your right to say that. And then I'm going to defend my right to say that you're wrong and that's a horrible idea. And, maybe even to shout you out of the square or whatever we have to do because some ideas are terrible. But that's, again, our right to discuss them, but not our right to discuss them free from consequences. People
Before I go, I will say you do need the bad speech so you can know the good speech. Like if you like that, like they say, good money drives out bad, good speech drives out bad speech. Do you know what I mean?
Definitely, I hope so, and that's, along the line, a lot of people say sunlight is the best, disinfectant and so forth, but there's a possibility that out of all this discussion and out of all this banning and censorship and negativity and so forth, that there comes something good. There might be more decentralization. People are saying Alex Jones might go to DTube or Steam it, and then when he gets banned from DTube and Steam it, maybe they'll have one of those third-party clients that they keep talking about that would read their blockchain, that would allow them to really be censorship free, which again is going to be a horrible disaster of dead babies and neo Nazis and whatever else. True free speech is very, very, very messy, and even a distributed company or whatever they are, like Steemit, wouldn't really want that true free speech. It's going to have to be a third-party client that you download that reads the Steemit blockchain, which then will get you access to all the nasty stuff. But still, that's the internet. You should have the right to access that stuff if you want, I suppose, depending on if it hurts anyone. So.
Absolutely. Anyway, I'll let you go because it's 4:30 a.m. in the morning. Yes. If I sound half asleep, that's why. But you popped up on my alerts, and I was listening, and I thought no one's called in, so I'll call in.
Well,
Great person to talk to, Thomas, and I really admire what you and the guys there at the Crypto World Network are doing. So yeah, have a good morning over there. What time is it where you are?
Yeah, it's 9:40 in the morning here. You sure are up early today, Zach. So thanks so much for the call.
I know. I'm actually in bed. I'm just kind of just listening away. I'm drift off now. I'll catch you later. Thank you.
All right, have a good one. Thanks, Zach, for the call. And you can call us now on World Crypto Network, all one word on Skype. We're taking your calls right here. And we're just talking about the Alex Jones situation, talking about censorship and free speech and whatever your opinions are on that, as well as whatever my opinions are on that. I think we had a couple more comments we were going to read. Rad Vladdy says Thomas is correct. Facebook is a private company and they have the rights to do what they did for any arbitrary reason. He personally thinks it's a bad business decision. People can follow or block anyone they want, so it's not like Alex Jones was imposing his views upon anyone or Facebook who didn't want to hear them. Facebook made their piece of the internet smaller and have sent the message that they are not open to all people, just the ones they find acceptable. They've made their platform less relevant to society and less valuable. And I would agree with this, except that I always thought this about Facebook's platform. I always thought that it was a huge danger for everyone and that everyone had a false impression that they were in a public place, when really Facebook is tracking everything you do and tracking you across many websites on the internet that have those Facebook ad widgets that report back to them. Although I have given up Firefox recently, they do have a cool feature where you can run your browser in kind of like a virtual machine that will keep Facebook from touching the rest of your browsers and the rest of your history and so forth. That sounds like a great plugin. That might be something that Chrome needs. Just sandbox all of these tabs and don't allow the tabs to report back to reporting home. Cancel all the cookies, right? And he's saying, yes, we should have Alex. Now, here, Rad Vladdy really gets me. And first of all, I want to say that I'm not a good libertarian. I do believe in private property rights. But again, I select my political views from across the spectrum. I'm not fitting into one simple category. So it's difficult to really, pin down what my beliefs are because they're different on each issue. So he brings up the excellent example of, am I in favor of a bakery choosing not to bake a cake for a gay wedding for arbitrary reasons? This is a complicated issue, right? I'm gonna look bad if I come out on one side of this or the other side of this, but I still got to go what I believe and where it is, which is, well, first of all, I think it's just bad business, right? At the very core, I think if you're a shop that bakes cakes, you should bake cakes and make money, right? I believe in capitalism. I believe in business existing for its own sake. If this cake shop started poisoning people, again, I would have them shut down because they're failing in capitalism. You're supposed to sell a good product that doesn't make people sick, at least not on purpose. There's a lot of allergies and things going on in the world. In this case, again, discrimination because of race, color, class, creed, sexual orientation, et cetera, et cetera. It sounds to me like the cake shop in this place would be discriminating against the people. So I would be against the cake shop having the right to choose based upon a discriminatory reason to bake a cake or to not bake a cake. So maybe it's a larger issue. We'll have to expand on this. But for right now, I would be on the left side of that, and maybe you would be on the right side. But in general, going back to its core, I just think it's bad business, right? I think that if you're a cake shop that's choosing your people based upon their sexual beliefs or their political beliefs or anything like that, you're going to be an out of business cake shop, right? I just think, and not even because of protest, just because you're so stupid that you've complicated your business. Somebody comes into my business, just as an example, whatever it is, I want to serve them. I want to get them a hamburger. I want to make them happy, take a couple bucks off them, clean up after they leave, and have everything go cool, right? That's a business. That's also very much an American type thing, so that the Americans are businesses. But I totally support everyone's opinion in the chat that you have the right to disagree with me on this one. And I also agree that it's a nuanced and a complicated issue. That very clearly, if you were the couple that went to the shop and you were discriminated against, you would clearly be discriminated against, right? You'd have a case for that. On the other side, people are going to say that the cake shop is being discriminated against because they're being forced in a way, although it's still a voluntary transaction with money and so forth. But they're kind of being forced to make a cake for a cause they don't support. But once again, I'm not so sure that you have that right with the cake, that you have the right to say how this cake will be used, right? What if they're going to use the cake to throw it at people and you're offended because you work so hard on the cake? You don't want it thrown. So you have a special rule in your cake shop saying it can't be thrown. It seems very difficult to enforce that. It seems very arbitrary. Uh, they're saying in the chat that the couple targeted the cake shop. But once again, I think the cake shop put a sign on themselves saying that we are the cake shop that discriminates. And if you want to do that, somebody's going to test it, just like I'm saying here with the internet. If you want to have a censorship free website, the first post on there is going to be, oh, frack, I just forgot his name. Old Keck the frog or whatever, waving a Nazi flag. Pepe the frog. That's going to be the first GIF, and that's going to be the first 100 GIFs. The internet gets pretty nasty. And the same thing with these cake shop people. If you're out there saying, we are the discriminatory cake shop, and you're putting a, coloreds only sign, and you have a separate restroom and so forth, that's where this goes back to, is the civil rights movement. And if you think it's okay to have separate restroom facilities, separate counters, separate water fountains, and so forth, the courts in America decided that it was not okay, that separate but equal was not acceptable, and they turned that over. So I don't know. We're having a good discussion about this. I think everybody is sharing their views in the chat, and they don't exactly agree with me, but I'm allowing them to share their views, and I welcome you guys sharing your views in the chat. I think we're having a good discussion about this, even though it is a difficult discussion. Why is Pepe got to be waving a Nazi flag? Well, okay, I'm gonna give you a search here. Pepe frog. Here we go. And the first image is, oh, you guys lucked out. There's the Hitler image. It was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So it's only the seventh image on a random Google search. Bad luck, Pepe. There's another one. Sorry, man. Like it's been a tough life for this frog. But still, I'm old internet, so I remember when he was just a joking, laughing, silly frog. Poor Pepe. But so it goes. And we're just talking with you here on Bitcoin Talk Show. You can give us a call now on Skype at World Crypto Network, all one word. Sometimes the loudest people in the chat never seem to call in. But I'd be fine if you guys want to call in, even if you want to talk about this hot button issue of denying people the right to sell cakes, or denying people the right to buy cakes, or however you guys see it. I'd be glad to let you talk a couple minutes on that, or whatever you guys got here on Bitcoin Talk Show. It's around 9:50 a.m. right now. We'll try to keep the show going till 10 if we can get another call or two. Otherwise, we might have a short show today, which would be fine with me. But we're just talking about Bitcoin today. The price is down. A lot of people are a little bummed out when the price is down. Looks like it was down 3% when I turned this on. Now it's down 6%. It's gone down to $6,265, falling again from just this morning. Looking at the price in Satoshis, we're now over 16,000 at 16,154 Satoshis for $1. It's a good deal going along. Checking in on the altcoins, still looks like they're down even more. Ooh, Bitcoin Cash down 12%, EOS down 16%. These are getting nasty. So there it is. People are cursing at it. No, go up, go up. Oh, if only that worked, right? If only that worked. So there it is. We read yesterday's comments. Thanks again for commenting on the show. Be sure to give us a like down below. That really helps us spread the word about Bitcoin Talk Show and the World Crypto Network. We have around 150 live viewers right now, and all you have to do is pick up the phone on Skype. You can install the app on your phone for free, get an account for free, and call the World Crypto Network, all one word, for free. Otherwise, I might have to read a book. Hate to do this to you, but maybe it's a chance to check out my new webcam. Ooh, I look more HD than I've ever wanted to be. But here it is, Bukowski, and it's a flip. Oh, that's a long one. You guys don't want a long one. I know that. But let's see. Oh, here we go. I've read this before. Oh well, it's so good. I'll read it again. Charles Bukowski, about competition. The higher you climb, the greater the pressure. Those who manage to endure learn that the difference between the top and the bottom is obscenely great. And those who succeed know this secret: there isn't one. No difference between the top and the bottom. Bukowski's not a traitor. That's what I would say. Here we go. Hello, caller. You're live on the World Crypto Network. What's your name and where are you calling from?
Hey, Thomas, how's it going? It's Jose Artega. I was trying to call in earlier. I was just a little busy. I just got to the computer right now.
Hey, Jose, how's it going? What's on your mind about Bitcoin or even the hot button issue of the Alex Jones censorship issue?
Yeah. The pretty much the Alex Jones thing is why I kind of wanted to call in for a minute. Because I think right now it's like a very slippery slope. They are the thing about them silencing Alex Jones. It's like this how it works. Governments, you know, they can't silence the people because of the laws of the land, the Constitution, Bill of Rights, etc. But the reality is that like we're living in a time in which corporations rule the world and corporations dictate what goes on. So corporations are used to enforce the laws and circumvent the actual laws of the land. Therefore, they can silence someone like Alex Jones, and that's the equivalent of book burning. And it's really sad because remember the whole thing about the internet and what all this is that the freedom of everything, all kinds of opinions. And Jimmy Dore said this yesterday, which was like I was listening to him, and he was saying that, and by the way, this guy's super left, super liberal, and he's mad crazy that they banned him because the thing is, it's like this. It's like the more we disagree with an opinion, the more we should like allow that opinion to be heard, and then we, the people, need to have the right to also combat it. The only way, it's like if you can't combat something you don't like by by cutting the tongue off. All they did was cut the tongue off of Alex Jones, and now what it's making a lot of people do is like, damn, why are they not letting him speak? Why is this so? Even people that might not even be so into Alex Jones, they're more like, this is really interesting. And if you look in the chats, because I was doing, in my own videos, I was just doing stuff on Alex Jones, and I would just like casually look at the comments people are leaving, since the last, since this happened. And it's crazy, man. This is so crazy how it's like almost 80% of the people are in shock and awe that they actually did ban him and how they banned him. And it's pretty crazy because no matter how they view him, it's all about just freedom of speech. And we, the people, we're already realizing that we're losing. We don't have any rights in the United States. Look, where I live. I live in Mexico. All right, it's because I got more freedom down here, and I'm an American citizen, proud American. I'm out here. I feel like Kenny Powers. Like in the season when he was out in Mexico. But anyways,
Well, and I agree with you, Jose. I think it's a complicated and a tough issue, and that by limiting people's speech, you draw attention to them. Certainly, Alex is getting more attention now. A lot of normal people that have never tuned in before, presumably, are going to tune into Alex's show. But I want to play a little devil's advocate here, and I want to ask you, what do we do with something like the rise, and again, we're going to lose the argument because we're going to talk about World War II, but the rise of a fascist leader like Adolf Hitler, the rise of a Nazi leader. If we have Nazis in the street and they're rallying and we want to stop them, if we shout them down, that's bad, right? Because we're reducing their speech, we're limiting them. But at the same time, if they are massing, if they do want to change the government, if they want to change all these laws, make things discriminatory, make things go backwards, what can we do? What is the right way to fight Nazis in this example?
Easy. It's not that hard. You literally fight them with thought, with words, with knowledge, the same thing. You allow them to freely demonstrate, and then you yourself freely demonstrate, and the power is in numbers, and there's like way more people that are not KKK. All right, so if you allow the KKK to freely roam the streets, listen, it's going to get to the point where the people are going to be like, hey, not in my neighborhood. Hey, not here. Hey, not there. And it's it. And you already know that that's why these people have to live in these isolated areas, and they had to isolate themselves and hide themselves. And if all of a sudden now they want to show themselves, please, by all means, show yourselves. You know what I mean? And like, it's like there's more people that are anti-racist. There's more people that are good people. You know what I'm saying, Thomas? So it's all about that. But, we have to let them freely voice their voice. And then when they do, people are like, oh my God, that's horrible. And then they have people decide for themselves, not have a government entity decide for us. I mean, because then we're down a slippery slope.
YouTube wasn't a government entity.
Now we're the
YouTube's a private company.
Tells us what to think, what to do, what is right, what is wrong. No, listen. We as humans reserve the right to think and act however we want. If all of a sudden we act a fool, listen, the community and the people around us will let us know. And that's it. And if we get a little bit too crazy, then no problem. We have somebody that will arrest us if we fucking hurt somebody or affect someone's property or whatever. But other than that, I mean, just too much. It's too much right now. It's too crazy. Right now, if you fart the wrong way, you can get arrested.
Well, I'm not going to touch that one. But yeah, no, I agree with you. But I think that what people are worried about is with a demagogue or with a powerful speaker, that people can be enswayed and they can become entranced and they can do things they wouldn't normally do. We have that old idea where a person is fine and you can talk to a person, you can negotiate with them, you can have something in common. But a mob is not fine, right? A mob is just crazy and you can't stop them and you can't negotiate with them. And I think people are afraid that things now are becoming a mob and they're becoming widespread. Things like people calling the press the enemy of the people. That's literally language that Stalin used. That's communist, anti-communist language, the enemy of the people. And again, what that does is that incites people, that makes them then empowered to go out into the street and do something and to, do something to the enemy of the people. So I think that's where we are.
I disagree with you there because, like, the people that are demonizing the news are people like you and me, because that's why we have these news channels. I have a news channel. You have a news channel. This comedian, Jimmy Dore, has a news channel. All these people have news channels because this is where we, are going to for trusted news sources, because we can't trust a regular news source anymore, which is, the CNNs or their media. And it just sucks. You know what I mean? Like, that's the thing, they're not doing all they're doing is harm. And we can agree with that. Thomas, if we were, you don't think that, like, the news that we talk about, whether it's crypto, whether it's this stuff that we're talking about right now, shouldn't this be on regular TV so that everybody can listen to this discussion? But it's not. And we're being put here. And then not only are we being put on the internet, but we keep getting shoved to the side, shoved to the side, and shoved to the side. And what is that telling us? This is the equivalent of book burning, okay? What they did with Alex Jones, unfortunately, like him or not, is they burned this equivalent of a modern book burning. They burned away everything he had to say, everything he had to teach, everything he had to whatever, and that's not right. And the thing is, the whole thing about the mob situation, it's like this, man. The reason people get angry is because people don't know. Once it's like this, man. We're all woke. Everyone listening right now is woke as fuck. But there's a lot of people out there, which is a good majority of the people, are not woke. All right, they're drinking their Starbucks, watching the Kardashians, and they have no idea what's going on. And when they find out what's going on, oh, there'll be hell in the streets. And so, why is that? Because it's a mass of people that are uneducated on the subjects that we're talking about right now. And just like when we first discovered, the difference between money and currency and what's going on with the Fed and what's going on with this and what's going on with all the things that are going on, we got angry. We went through the 12 steps. We got angry, then we got through acceptance, then we're like, okay, now we're going to fight back. Now we're going to whatever. And now we're at the, step 12, we're already woke. But there's a lot of people that have to go through the first steps, and the first steps are anger. And it's like having a bad relationship right now. Everyone right now that is not woke is just, they have a bad relationship with the government, with money, with that whole situation. They know it's a bad situation. They know things are bad. And it's like all of a sudden they know that they're being cheated on, but they don't want to admit it. They're in denial. And then all of a sudden, overnight, they're going to get the knowledge and they're going to see the government cheating on them. You know what I'm saying? I'm just making some metaphors here. And when they discover what's really going on, which is going to be, I think, in a few months, but I don't know. Anyways, it's going to be, it might be hell in the streets, but hopefully through education, through knowledge, we can avoid these things. If we don't have education and knowledge, then forget it. We're done. And that's why I'm one of the people that I think that the media, mainstream media, is the enemy of the state at the moment. They really are. And all you got to do is follow the money, and all these rabbit holes are there, for us. And I know a lot of us already know. And it's all about really just admitting the truth, talking about the truth, and enlightening people. And I think that the more people know and the more people are empowered with knowledge, the more we can do and the more we can change the world. Otherwise, we're all fucked. Sorry, pardon my French.
Yeah, I'm not so sure about all that, Jose. I'm not so sure that the mainstream media is the enemy of the people. And the main thing I want to push back against there is, what are we going to replace them with? I hear a lot of people saying that we should throw them out and painting them all with the same brush. It doesn't matter which channel or which article you read, we're painting them all, right? What is their alternative? What is their solution? I don't see an alternative mainstream media that is strong enough to really give us what we want. I know that a lot of people have perhaps a hagiophia, like an enlightened version of Alex Jones, like an imaginary version on a pedestal, and that he really is the conspiracy theory leader to lead us through this.
But Thomas,
I don't think he is. I think he's lost on a dozen tangents. He's gone down a dozen rabbit holes. If I was Alex Jones, all I would do every day is say 9/11 Building 7, and I would talk about physics. And I don't care about anything else. Who did what? Who did this military exercise, that, this thing? Every day, I would just be like, fire doesn't melt steel. Fire doesn't melt fireproof steel. You don't need to expand from there. When Alex Jones expanded from there, he got into all these frogs make you gay. Sandy Hook is fake. Everything is fake. He escalates, right? And I just don't think he's very valuable as a leader of conspiracy theory. I think that he sets the cause back, and that he allows an easy foil for people to say, oh, you're a crazy nutter like Alex Jones. I don't think that he really helps anybody. I think that he's there to sell his prepping materials, which is, again, preparing for doomsday is not a solution, right? I can hide in my little cell and I can be afraid of everything and I can stay off the internet and I can never make videos, never talk about things I believe, even Bitcoin and other things. That's what Alex is teaching. Alex is teaching nothing but fear. Fear, 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 and elevate the enemy. Alex's enemy is all powerful. Alex's enemy is everywhere. It knows everything. Everything's a conspiracy. And when that happens, you're losing your power, right? The conspiracy people, they don't believe that. They don't believe everything's a conspiracy and they're all powerful. They go out there and work, right? Alex teaches you to stay home and be afraid and to pack your little prepper den and think that you can somehow survive on your own in this world. Which, again, is a beautiful idea in the Ayn Rand books, the one man, the selfish man against everyone else. And I've read all those books. It doesn't work in the real world. In the real world, we have to work with people all the time. Everything that we have is a supply chain. Every road was built by other people. Everyone is an example of working together and benefiting from the whole group. And I think Alex removes people from the groups, hides them in their little corner. Everyone becomes an enemy. Everything is a conspiracy. And I think it sets the whole cause back. So I think we could do with or without him.
But listen, Thomas, I'm going to agree with you there. Like, look, at the end of the day, it's like this. I agree with you in the sense that with everything you just said about Alex Jones, I'm not a fan. I can honestly say I used to listen to him just like I used to listen to TYT, the Young Turks, and I listened to everything. But I don't listen to him anymore because again, he has become a shill, a paid shill for Alex Jones. You know what I mean? And all he does is sell products and all this other stuff and sell fear. And I get it. I'm totally get it. But all I'm saying is that if we allow all kinds of other things, like let's say like the daily news, when you're going to the supermarket or like anything like that, and they literally sell, yeah, hey, the Bat Boy, or the person that's 7,000 pounds and there's the size of a house, all these fake stories. They sell that. He himself says he is entertainment. He like literally, okay, so he is labeled more as entertainment, and he is doing performance art. He says that. So the fact that they're silencing him is all I'm saying is that we could be next, and it's all about allowing everyone to a voice to be heard and allowing us to form our opinion. The less we have, for us to form our opinion, the less knowledge we have. It's all about knowledge, and like it's not suppressing knowledge. It's not suppressing voices. Period. Like I said, I don't agree with him, but it's like I would be just as upset if they banned like the Young Turks, or if they banned any one of us crypto guys, or they banned anyone or anything, And then like they don't do that for the mainstream media. You look at someone like Rachel Maddow. All she does is talk about Russia, 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 and then it's like it's crazy. Like they actually did a poll of all the people, non-biased or whatever, and like only 1% of the country thinks that Russia is an issue, and everyone has all these other issues, like real issues, like hey, I don't have a job, I don't have any money. What's going on with the economy? I need health care. All these real problems, and they never talk about these things. So why his voice is important, it's just like our voice is important, because right now, I'm sorry if there's noise out there, but look, for example, no one is talking about crypto, so we talk about crypto. No one talks about crazy gay fraud conspiracy, so he talks about gay fraud conspiracies. No one is talking about what's really happening with the Saudi Arabia, deal with Tesla. So guess what? We're talking about it. Some other channel. No one's talking about this, and that's the thing, and that's a beauty. So right now, we're living in a moment in time, just like when the radio first came out, when the newspapers first came out, when TV first came out, and there was many, many, many voices. When the radio first came out, just like today, everyone could broadcast a radio show from their home. All right, that the government regulations and all this government bullshit took that away from the people. Right now, we're living through the same kind of thing. So, look, mainstream media, again, you can look at the numbers, you can look at everything. No one watches cable almost anymore. No one watches that crap anymore. People come to the internet for news, and that's why we're important, we're needed, and everyone, we need we need all kinds of voices for everybody. And I don't know, man. And to me, like I said, I really look, I can easily say, yeah, YouTube has all the right to do what they did. We can go down that rabbit hole, down that whatever. But, the reality is look, man, I'm also a businessman. I've been a businessman. And this is the way it works. Each one of these corporations, you name it, Facebook, YouTube, Google, all these people, all they care about is, money. And it's not really about money. All they want is information. They want our information that we're giving them to them for free. So all of a sudden, an entity, a government entity, is saying, hey, listen, you cannot obtain all this information from this ginormous swath of people, you know what I mean, that you normally get it from. These corporations, Google, Facebook, YouTube, they don't want to ban this guy. They're kind of being forced to ban this guy. And this is that's what I'm saying. That's the slippery slope that we're going down. And again,
I don't know that they were forced to ban this guy just because they all acted in concert.
Amendment, or we're going to repeal the First Amendment. People will be on the streets. So this is a way to get around it. But anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, I know. I don't think that the government banned him or that it was a united ban. I think it was just everybody started doing it and then they all started banning him. But I don't know. Yeah, I'm just not sure. A lot of the times, the stuff that shouldn't be talked about isn't talked about because it's not real stuff. So a lot of times, if you look into something further, it becomes not real. And that's why he shouldn't talk about it and that he should do his research. And what we really need is an alternative to the mainstream media where people are expressing their sources, showing their information, showing their facts, not propagandizing. And I don't think this gets us closer to it or further from it. It's just another distraction on the road. I don't exactly see this as a they're coming for all of us type moment. I agree with you that YouTube's a business, and just like the cake maker in the other example, they should try to make a cake for everyone. They should try to have as many people use their business as possible. But again, in this situation, Alex crossed some lines. He broke their rules, which again were written down beforehand. So it's very clear: use our system, follow our rules. Specifically, the example where they banned Alex from live streaming for 90 days, and then he went over and used another one of his channels to live stream. That's just stupid. Like, are you a child or something? Because that's just like YouTube's not going to notice. And even if they don't notice right away, maybe you get away with it for a month or two. They're going to come back and punish you. You've clearly broken the rules. What good are the rules if you're not going to follow them? And even the InfoWars community has their own set of rules. And in their FAQ, it says they will ban you for not following the rules. So it just seems, again, businesses have rules, private properties have rules. He broke the no trespassing law.
Thomas, so let's talk about the cake. Let's talk about the cake real quick, because since I'm going to throw you a monkey wrench real quick. So
all right.
I'm in the camp that I don't think that any business should be allowed. I mean, should be forced to do, to make something they don't want to. It's like this. They're a private entity, like the cake people, the people making the cake.
Yeah, but we had a civil rights movement. We decided that we didn't like discrimination. Like, there could be plenty of whites only stores right now. That's not acceptable. Like, it's just not acceptable. So
that's not what happened. That's not what happened. Okay. This is how it worked. Okay. I mean, this is from what I understand how the story went. Okay. I'm not even going to talk about the couple and their past or anything like that. I'm just going to talk about it just like a simple transaction. So supposedly, the people making the cake, meaning, it was just a mom and pop store that made cakes, and they were a Christian family, and all of a sudden, this couple comes in there and they wanted a certain kind of cake. All right. And it wasn't that it was a gay couple. They had nothing. They didn't care about the gay couple. It was just that they wanted a certain kind of cake. I think it was like a sexual cake or something like that. And they didn't want to make the cake, and they refused to make them the cake. And then that's when they took them to court. Now, listen, the thing is, it's like this. I'm a business person. I mean, like, again, and I don't know if you own a business or anyone out there that owns a business. We have to have the right to refuse service to whoever, and it doesn't matter what it is. Look
again, whites only. Whites only. I refuse service to people that aren't white. Like, we decided that in our society that we're not going to have discrimination.
I'm originally from Miami. We had a situation, like, I want to say like 10, 15 years ago, where we had a restaurant like on South Beach. Literally, it was owned by Asians, and it was a black couple that came in there, and they went, "Oh, we're not going to, we can't serve black people. You guys are." She went full on racist on them. Literally, what happened is, we're pretty libertarian down there. So what happened was that, we let her continue doing business. We didn't do anything about it. We just put it on the news and let the people decide. Listen, that place was out of business in a few months. Why? Because people stopped going there, because it's like, whoa, I don't want to go there. That place is, racist as fuck. And then, it's like people that were even white people that were racist, like, well, I don't want to.
That works for groups where there's a lot of people, where it's a large group being discriminated against, but it doesn't work for a small group. We want to protect the rights of the minority in this country. That's what the House of Representatives, the Senate, that's what these things are about. Minority rights. If you're in a very small group and people discriminate against you, no one's going to come up to defend you. That's why we have the legal system. That's why we have these laws. The LGBTQ, et cetera, community, they're very small, a lot of them, especially transgenders, et cetera. Transgender people want to buy cakes. If you're discriminating against them, people might not care.
Everybody can buy cakes.
Like, your system is accounting on outrage to provide us with a successful solution to the problem. The problem with that is, if there's not outrage, it doesn't work. And we know from history that a lot of white people went along with slavery. The Bible was used to justify slavery. African American people were said to be not human, etc., etc. This allowed people to walk over them for 100, 150 years, whatever. Outrage as a solution doesn't always work. That's why we make proactive laws to protect the minority. These protecting minority laws, they provide good outcomes even without outrage. That's what I'd say.
No, yeah. Listen, like again, it's not about outrage either. The thing is, look, according to that
Well, but
story, that
you said in your example that
get other places to
your
get the
town,
cake,
you
they
would let
chose
them do
to get the
business,
cake
and the
from.
outrage would come along, and the outrage would
Didn't
shut
want
them
to-
down. In
That's
the absence of the outrage, we need something else that works, and that's the legal system
But
in the
okay,
absence of
but listen,
outrage.
Thomas. All I'm saying is, why couldn't that couple have just said, "Listen, these people. Look. I'm just gonna give you a scenario real quick, okay? Why couldn't that couple have just said, okay, hey, you know what? These individuals do not want to make a cake for us. In fact, I don't feel comfortable in them making a cake for us because if they don't like us, they're probably going to spit in our cake or do something bad to our cake. Why would we even want to have a make? Why would we want to force someone to make a cake that someone that doesn't like us? So why don't we just go to, I don't know, 100 other stores in the area and have them make us a cake? And that's the thing. And like we live in a society where we have choice, we have whatever, but we also have the not just the choice to buy a cake, but we also have choice of decisions. And I think that again, there's people in the chat that can maybe back
That's
me
the
up here.
same argument for the lunch
Cool
counter.
story, but like reality is that these individuals also they were going out there looking for to cause trouble. They were going out there to cause a stir. They were looking.
But the same could be said about the Montgomery bus boycott and about the lunch counter sit-ins, that they went to a business that wouldn't accept them and they targeted that business to protest against them, and they started the civil rights movement, and now anybody can eat at any lunch counter everywhere.
Thomas, that's a listen.
That's history. It's all right there.
Man, there was all whites, all blacks. It was super segregated. It was super racist. That wasn't the case here at all. And that's the thing. That's what I'm trying to get at. We live in a society now where now anyone can go. There was no sign that says no transgenders, no gays, no nothing like that at all. In fact, they had plenty of choice, and there was plenty of people that accepted them. In fact, we live in a society now that if you want to be a horrible piece of shit racist, you can. If you want to be super religious, you can. If you want to be gay, you can. If you want to be a dumb fucking Cuban like me, you can. You can do whatever you want, right? I don't know. I mean, isn't that freedom? The fact that we could be whoever we want to be.
Yeah, but 100 years ago, freedom was to put up no Irish signs. Freedom was to put up no immigrant signs. Freedom was to call people names like WAP and other insults based upon your race, right? Based on where you came from, the country of origin. That was freedom back then. We had race riots. We had all kinds of, people going around in gangs killing Irish people, going around in gangs killing Mexican people. The entire marijuana prohibition movement, and even the choice to use the word marijuana instead of cannabis, happened because they didn't like Mexican people, because they didn't like African American jazz players, and they said that they would go crazy with reefer madness. And just America has a history of this, so we can't just count on outrage. Outrage wasn't there for the jazz musicians. It wasn't there for the reefer madness. It took 70 years, it took 80 years, 100 years to overturn marijuana prohibition. So entire generations were punished because of our marijuana laws being so bad because of a lack of outrage. There wasn't any outrage there to protect the people.
But there was outrage. It was just on the other end. There was outrage on the other end. The outrage was
it took too long. It was too slow.
And legalize. I mean,
the question here is how many harms are we going to allow in society? Are we going to allow a lot of harms for a long time and wait for outrage, or are we going to try to limit the number of harms by having a proactive law? I think we're just on different sides of this issue.
But I mean, look, I'm not, yeah, I mean, for real, I'm not like disagreeing with a lot of the stuff we're talking about. I just, again, like, yeah, you said it, we're, I guess, agree to disagree, we're on both on opposite ends of the spectrum, right?
And I think it's good for your argument and for my argument to put them out like this and to let people debate them on both sides. And the chat's agreeing with you. They're on your side. They think that the outrage will cover it. I think I also have a perfectly good argument that there's not enough outrage and there's going to be huge problems in the system, like transgender people being discriminated against because they're a small group and not a lot of people identify with them. And this whole country founded for small minority rights. It's one of the big things in the Constitutional Convention, one of the big debates, the reason we have the House of Representatives, so on and so forth. minority rights. The reason that the Senate, Rhode Island has 2 senators, they're equal to California. Minority rights. It's in the system. So.
But yeah, you know, again, I don't know. To me, again, I'm all about rights, you know, but I don't think that certain groups or certain individuals. I'm a minority. I'm a super minority. You know what I mean? I'm Hispanic. Whatever. You know. And I don't know, man. To me, it's all about equal. You know, like I think everybody should be equal, and not having certain groups, certain individuals have more rights than others, and that's it. I think that's wrong. And in fact, I feel for the white man. I feel like if you're a white male in the United States of America right now, you're like the one that has it the hardest. And it shouldn't be that way. You know what I mean? Like at all. You know what I mean? And again, I have a lot of black friends. I have a lot of friends, you know, I'm Hispanic. I got a lot of friends from everywhere, you know, white friends, you name it. But like, I don't think that, you know, that's fair. And I don't think that that's the way it should be. You know, at all, you know what I mean? Like at all. And it's all about education. If we were more educated on all this stuff, we wouldn't be outraged. We wouldn't be out there on the streets going crazy. We wouldn't be fighting against each other. We wouldn't be, right? Why is it that today, in this day and age, in the United States of America, it's black versus white, gay versus not gay, right versus left, man versus woman? You know, what is this, bro? It's like fucking death matches every day. I feel like I'm watching, you remember a Celebrity Death Match on MTV? You know, like what the fuck, bro? What's going on here? And it shouldn't be that way. I'm, you know, and it's like divide and conquer. They're dividing us to try to conquer us, and we need to come together. And that's it, you know. I like, again, you know, it's really all about, you know, come together right now. All right, go ahead.
All right. Well, I would agree with you, and I would just say generally, what I think happened is that we used to be in the ascent of a civilization, and now we're in the decline of a civilization. And people would always ask me, would you rather live in the ascent of Rome or the decline of Rome? And I can tell you now, using hindsight, oh, I'd much rather be in the ascent. Things seemed much more peaceful in the 90s. You could focus on your video game without any trouble. No one was going to bother you or crash airplanes into buildings or any of the other nonsense they started doing lately. So yeah, we were definitely better off before, and it's probably going to get worse. So we'll just have to see how it goes. But thanks, Jose, for your call. I want to try to open up the phone lines. Maybe some other people in the chat want to call.
It was a great talk with you today, Thomas. For real, it was an awesome talk. I loved it, and as usual, you know, great show, great everything. And I'll catch you later. All right, peace.
Thanks, Jose, and thanks for presenting the other side here. I think we had a good discussion, a good debate. We both have our positions and our issues, and I think people can understand why we're saying what we're saying and where we're coming from. So I think it was really valuable.
For sure. All right, man. Peace. Thanks again. Right. Bye-bye.
Give us a call anytime, and you can call us now on Skype at World Crypto Network, all one word. We got all the way out to 10:20. We're getting very close to the 11 o'clock hour, but we still need a few more calls to get us there. So if you've got Skype at home, you can even install Skype on your mobile phone. That's one of the easiest ways to get it. You can call in, and you can talk about Bitcoin or censorship or whatever's on your mind. Once again, I want to thank everyone for giving us a thumbs up. We have 186 viewers. Where did those other 30 viewers come from? Must have been from YouTube, because I certainly wasn't tweeting about this or doing anything. I'm trying to do this show. I can't promote it while I'm doing it. But as always, you can call us on Skype, World Crypto Network. We covered the Bitcoin news today. Everyone's a little bummed that the ETF didn't get approved, but nobody's really crying in their beer except for the mainstream media. Everything is so exciting for them. They just freak out all the time. Hello, Mustafa. You're live on the World Crypto Network. Where are you calling from today?
Hello, Thomas. I am calling from Frankfurt, Indiana.
Not Frankfurt, the country. Very different.
Yeah, Frankfurt, Germany, maybe. No.
Well, what's on your mind today, Mustafa? Are you into the Bitcoin or are you into the Alex Jones discussion?
Oh, well, we can't talk about Bitcoin because Bitcoin's going to zero. So.
Oh, it's over. It's already over. You've given up.
Yeah, Bitcoin's dead for the, I don't know, 1300th time or something. But no, yeah. I was just listening to Jose and yourself talking about, I guess, censorship, or basically you're talking about whether or not there should be laws to control people. And I don't know if I think I've told you this before, but I believe in very little amount of government involvement in people's lives, and I kind of agree with Jose, saying that you should just let people decide whether or not to accept something or not, and I feel like if I'm a racist person, or if I want to discriminate against a certain group, and you pass a law that says I can't, doesn't mean I'm gonna stop. Just means I'm not gonna do it as publicly as I was before, you know. But I mean, it doesn't, passing a law saying that I can't be racist against a certain group or a certain ethnicity just doesn't change my ideology, or my point of view on it. I'm still gonna be racist, and I'm still gonna be within my circles. I'll be able to do it publicly, but when I'm out in public, in front of everyone, in front of the open eyes of the whole country, I'll have to be a little bit conservative about how I do it, But I might have to take my whites only sign down, but I might not serve a non-white person with a smile, or something like that.
Well,
I don't really think that passing a law fixes anything.
well, I totally agree with you.
Under the rug.
I totally agree with you, Mustafa, but I would argue the other way. I agree that we're not going to change that racist person's soul. If they hate black people, they're going to hate black people, right? I can't stop that. But the rest of it, what you're saying, that's things we can change. Maybe he has to take down the whites only sign. Maybe he has to take down the cross in the front yard. Maybe he doesn't wear his Klan uniform out in public. He hides himself. Remember, one of the big things about the Klan is that they wear those masks to hide their faces. This way, they can still be judges and policemen and proper members of society. But when they have their little secret meeting, they all know who they are. They all know that's Jimbo underneath the hood, but no one says anything. No one spreads it. And there's something different about being called a racist in public and being labeled as one, and that people wouldn't want to do that. So I think it really comes down to harms. Whereas previously, before the Trump presidency and all the little hinting, winking words that he says to the racist directly, things like the gathering storm I was reading about yesterday, and all this secret coded language, it actually goes the other direction. What I think they're doing is they're getting people to get their whites only sign back out. That they would see someone and they would cut them off in traffic and they would call them a horrible word. And normally they wouldn't use that word, but they're starting to be emboldened. So I would go down the line that we need to decrease racism and we need to make it unacceptable in our society so that we do have these laws. And, similar to if the Nazis were rising, they would make people wear the uniforms, they would make people wear the yellow stars, all these kinds of things. We try not to have that. So I would just be saying that, yes, it doesn't change the racist, but if it reduces him, then it reduces the possible harms from that person.
I mean, yeah, okay, I agree that it might reduce the possible harm, but do you think that it actually fixes the situation? Like, if you use Jose's example of saying, like, the Chinese people that didn't want to serve the blacks or whatever, and then nobody went to their business and they pretty much went out of business, or they could have went out of business. It hurt them financially. So then, if you're, if I think that if you expose an issue or a problem in your society, then it forces people to deal with it. But if you pass a law that masks it and you hide it, then it still stays. It's just kind of hidden. It's kind of like, if I got a virus that's contagious, for example, and you can see it on my skin, and I know if I go out in public and people see that I have the contagious virus, everyone's going to walk away from me. So I just wear a long sleeve shirt so people can't see that I have the contagious virus. So everybody's like, "Oh, Mustafa's cool. He's just like us." But in fact, I'm spreading the contagious virus without telling everyone because I've masked it under my long sleeve shirt. You know what I mean? if that makes
Yeah, I would agree. It's not going to reduce it to 0, and it's not going to drive it to 100. It's not an all or nothing solution, but I think that if we can reduce it, not that it goes away, but that we just have less of it. So it's a reduction of harms. The more racists we can get to stay inside, the more racists we can get to not say horrible words to other people, the better off we are. Sure, they could still be thinking those words in their head. Fortunately, we don't have thought crime. We don't have the ability to know what people are thinking and to judge them on that. So we can't. But I would argue for the reduction of harms, the reduction of racism by reducing these things. I would say if you go the other way and we go back to having separate restrooms and separate drinking fountains and all of those things, that increases the harms. That makes there more harms. More people are being discriminated against. It's easier to discriminate against them. It's more societally acceptable to discriminate against them. And I would argue for the reduction. So.
Yeah, I mean, I think it would. You're right if it's like a majority versus a minority. If the majority is the one that's doing the harm, then yes. If you let them be open about it, then it's going to do more bad in the long run. But I feel like this country's more diverse now, that it, that not one group or not one people have like a full control over it. If we just, for example, decided to say, you know what, if you want to be racist, that's fine. If you don't like the certain kind of people, you can wear that on your sleeve, but the only thing that you have to do is that you got to come to these meetings where you're going to meet with this person that you completely hate once a month or something, your group and their group, and they can just sit there and talk with each other, or listen to each other's idea. And you need to just talk, and just bring people together that don't want to be together, that hate each other, that say they hate each other at least, and just to ask them, ask them to ask each other, why do you guys hate that? The same way how politics is supposed to work. Like we have, Republicans and Democrats and then a couple other parties. And it seems like nowadays they don't talk to each other anymore. Each party is kind of in its own world, and they only just talk about how much they hate the other party and what they're going to do to attack them, as opposed to if they actually sat down and talked to each other and tried to work out each other's issues together. If that was forced, if that's the only thing that's forced, or if that's the only law that we have that forces people of different backgrounds and different ideologies, different whatever point of views, to come and discuss their different points of views with the opposing party, I think that would probably be a way to solve it.
Yeah, sadly, there's actually a structural issue for what's happened lately with our politics. And no one on the mainstream media is talking about this. A couple of people are. A guy wrote a book about it, and I read his book. It was called oh, it was a terrible title, but it's about gerrymandering. Basically, what's happened is in 2010, first in 2008, the Republicans lost, right? They lost to Obama. They were very upset. They were very sad. But what they did is they didn't just sit around and cry in their beer. They got to work, right? And they came up with this plan in 2010 called Red Map. And what Red Map was going to do is to rewrite the entire map of the constitutional districts so that the Republicans would win. And they activated this plan by taking over state houses. They ran in unpopular races that no one cared about, and they pumped in tons of money at the end. So your race is going pretty good. Then at the end, this guy comes in with millions and millions of dollars, defeats your opponent for you, and puts you in power. They took over all the state houses. Then they used computerized maps.
That's cheating.
Huh? Yeah.
Well,
Well,
cheating.
Yeah, this is it. So they took over the things. They did the computerized maps. They know what districts people live in. They know where you'll move. And what they do is they set all of the races so that the Republicans win theirs 55 to 45. It's a very close race in Republican districts. But the Democrats, you pack them all into one district, and then they win like 70-30 or 60-40. So what this means is that you have 4 Republican districts and 1 Democratic district, so that even if the Republicans have less people voting for them, they get more representatives. So on one hand, you'd say this is great for the Republicans, right? This puts them in power for a full decade. All this time, we're looking at Obama's agenda, and you're saying, why can't Obama get anything done? It's because he doesn't have the Congress, and he doesn't have the Congress because of this gerrymander, right? But there's a problem with this because what it brings up is you have these unbeatable Republican districts now, right? They're very, very, very red. No one's going to win in the Democrats there. The problem is the Republicans now face a challenge from their right. Someone who's more extreme than them could win this district. So if you have your old center Republican who's equal, he's willing to work with the Democrats. They have meetings, they compromise. That guy is seen as weak by these red districts. These red districts would get rid of that guy in a second if he compromised. They would replace him with someone far more right wing, far more red. The same thing happens in the Democratic districts. The Democratic districts are now 60 to 40, 70 to 30. They don't face a challenge from the middle. If they compromise, if they work with Republicans, things actually get worse for them. They face a challenge from the left. So we have more and more left-wing politicians, more and more right-wing politicians, and a system that punishes anyone who compromises and cooperates and works together. And this is because of the 2010 gerrymander. And on one side, certainly you could say it gave the Republicans the House for a decade. It was an incredibly successful plan. But on the other side, what it's done is destroy that politics that we used to have in the 90s and the 80s when the Republicans and the Democrats would go out to dinner together, when the Republicans and the Democrats would work together on a bill and they'd compromise. You'd get a little of this and a little of that, and both of them would be unsatisfied, but that's a compromise. It took that out of our politics. Everyone on the right faces a challenge on the right.
I agree with you. I was honestly just talking about about this whole situation in a more general way. You're being more specific about it, and I really didn't know about that at all. But yeah, you're right. That there is that now it's more about self-interest, self-party interest, self-race interest, or whatever group that you're part of. You only care about that group. Like even if you're like transgender, part of the transgender group or whatever, they don't care about anybody else. If you really listen to what they're talking about, they're very focused on obtaining rights for themselves. And I don't think that there's enough people that are just trying to, make the general public a better place. Everyone's just focused on their own self-interest or the self-interest of their group or their demographic or their race or, whatever it is. And that's just bad for the whole country, because this is a country of everyone. It's a melting pot of the whole world, and we should be working together. And there's very little of that in the, in big politics and stuff like that, or big media, for example.
I would agree, Mustafa, and I think a lot of our best ideas came out of compromise. And one side didn't win, the other side didn't win. And actually, in a political system like this, even though I might root for the left-wing politician or whatever, I know that it's bad if the left wing all wins. I know that it's bad if they have control of everything. Look at right now. Technically, the Republicans have control of the House, the Senate, and the presidency, and yet still they can't seem to get anything done. So there are downsides to being in charge, even with a crazy, overwhelming majority, the ability to push through Supreme Court seats and other judge positions. There's a lot of things they are doing, but there's a lot of things they aren't doing. And the same would be true if it was all left wing in charge. They wouldn't be getting it done. They wouldn't be getting it done the way you want it. And that's part of the way our system's designed. Our system in America is supposed to be slow. It's supposed to have checks and balances. It's supposed to force compromise on the politicians. And recently, I believe because of the gerrymander of 2010, our system has totally stopped functioning. And unless some kind of sanity is restored to the gerrymander situation, which seems unlikely because the Supreme Court has not stepped in and they've not declared a standard. And without a standard, we can't say that this state is too gerrymandered to the left or this state is too gerrymandered to the right because we don't have a standard. And it doesn't look like the additional Supreme Court justices are going to improve the gerrymander situation. So unless we fix these structural problems in our politics, it's going to continue to fall apart with more right-wing politicians, more left-wing politicians, and no compromise, which means that it will never work and never get back on track. So we might be heading towards a different form of government or something like that. So it's a little radical, but
yeah, and actually, but that might not be a bad thing. You know, that might not be a bad thing, and that's why I think you know, Donald Trump being president is a good thing. Not because he's a good president, but because he's really exposing everything to his true self. You know, I don't think because he's not he doesn't have a background in politics. He doesn't know how to mask it the same way they all do. You know, he doesn't know how to smile in your face and be articulate. Even when he's really just trying to insult you, he just insults you, you know, and calls you a dumbass or whatever it is. And he just does, you know, he doesn't have that jargon, that, you know, that political way of speaking, where it just comes off as you're still being polite and respectful, but really you're just talking crap or whatever it is. And he just exposes all that, not on purpose. He's not doing it on purpose. He's just doing it because that's his personality. And I think that's good for the country in a whole, you know, for everyone to know that, you know, there is still a lot of issues in this country. And, you know, maybe the more that they surface, the more we'll be able to fix them or deal with them.
well, we'll just have to see how it goes, and we might agree to disagree on this one too. I agree he doesn't have the flowery language of a politician. I think he has the straightforward language of a con man. So I do still think he's lying. I just think he's using smaller words. So
No, for sure. I'm not saying he's being honest or anything. I'm just saying that he doesn't have the I don't know what the word is, man. I'm not a very articulate person either. But you know, he just doesn't have the experience in politics to be able to say what he wants in a way that doesn't come off as rude or as like us being an asshole or something. You know, he just says it, and whatever happens, happens. You know, and then people just got to deal with what he said or what he did. And I don't think we've ever had that in the White House before. And you know, I think it's good. It's good, and overall, it'll be good for the country. You know.
we did have someone slightly similar with Calvin Coolidge. He was also a businessman, and he also said that he was going to rely on his businessman skills to solve the problems. He ended up expanding the Great Depression more than anyone. All of his policies actually seemed to feed the problem rather than to solve it. But he was a different person. He didn't talk as much as Donald. He was known as a famous cool Cal. And I'm going to use this as an example to tell one of my favorite history stories. You hear these all the time when you go to history class. But these two ladies, they saw Calvin Coolidge at a party event. And one of them made a bet with the other that she couldn't get Mr. Coolidge to say more than 2 words to her. And so she marched right up to Calvin Coolidge and she said, "Hello, Mr. Coolidge. I've heard that you're famously quiet and you won't say 2 words to anyone. Will you say something to me? I've made a bet with my friend. I hope to win this money." And Coolidge said to her 2 words. He said, "Bad bet." So funny stuff, but he was a quieter guy. He wasn't as talkative as Trump. But thanks so much, Mustafa, for your call. It's good to get other opinions and to let people talk about them. We'll probably agree to disagree on Trump, but I think that's fine too.
Definitely, man. I mean, I appreciate you taking my call. And honestly, I don't think we disagree on Trump. I don't know. I don't know why you're saying that. I think we both agree on what we think Trump is. I just feel like I mean, you might think that he's bad for you know what he's doing. What he's doing is bad. I'm not sure exactly what you believe or what you agree on, but I do believe that for the day or for the time being that he's hurting the country. But I believe that it's a necessary hurt. You know, it's a necessary wound that needs to be opened just so you can get out all the infectious.
Well, I hope so. I hope that we do a little bloodletting and that things go back to normal after that. I hope that things don't become a new normal, but we'll have to see how that goes.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. But yeah, I'll jump off now and talk to you guys later. Thank you.
Thanks again, Mustafa. Give us a call anytime. And you can call us now on Skype at World Crypto Network. We'll try to keep the phone line open for a couple more minutes here. We are quickly approaching 11 o'clock. So that's very good because that's the end time of this show. But I think it's been a fun one. I think we're talking about a lot more issues than other people might talk about. We're discussing them in a fair and even way. Everyone gets a chance to say their side. Sometimes we agree to disagree. But I think this is really working out. I see a lot of people in the chat. They're still very down on Hillary. And what's so interesting about this to me is certainly I probably would have preferred Trump to Hillary, but mainly just kind of an anti-Trump thing there, really. But I wonder what the world would be like if Hillary Clinton was president. I'm sure that you guys would still be very mad, and she would be doing a lot of globalist stuff. And I've heard a lot of people saying that she would start a war with Russia and other ideas. But I really do wonder. It's a very interesting alternative universe type theory. And a lot of this universe that we're in right now, I feel like a Rick and Morty episode where we've fallen into the wrong universe, and we're in the universe where Donald Trump is president. And I'm reminded of those old Marvel what ifs they used to do. What if Spider-Man became president? You know, what if Spider-Man had the powers of Incredible Hulk, and all these kind of things. And I feel like we're in a what if. We're in a what if Donald Trump became president. And I find this very interesting personally. I read Donald Trump's book in the 80s when I was a little kid, and I was very interested in him. And I would play Monopoly in a Trump style. I would buy all the buildings and so forth. He was kind of a folk hero in the 80s. He was this powerful businessman, and he was always in the news because he was cheating on his wife with this one and that one, and then marrying them, and cheating on his wife with this one and that one, and then marrying them. And it happened over and over again. And it was just the strangest thing to see him rise to power and to rise to political power. It's just very different than the character that at least I knew from television in the 80s and 90s. It's just very strange world to be living in. I even read that Doonesbury book. I don't know if you guys are into Doonesbury, this great comic strip from the 1980s, cast of characters in the hundreds. And they're very political, of course, and maybe a little left wing. You probably don't like them. But Doonesbury did a whole book collecting all of his Trump cartoons. And he'd been running Trump cartoons since the 80s when Trump first announced that he was going to run for president. He was upset at something that Ronald Reagan had done. He took out a full page ad in the newspaper. He became very political at that time, as opposed to in the past, all he really cared about was real estate development and looking good in headlines and so forth. From that point on, Doonesbury had Trump as a character. And Doonesbury's got another character that's kind of based on Hunter S. Thompson. And that guy went out there to Trump's yacht to do some work for him. And there's a lot of fun stuff between Trump and Duke, the Hunter S. Thompson stand-in character in the Doonesbury comics. But I don't think when Doonesbury put that collection together, he thought Trump would be president. You can look back on it now. The collection came out about a couple years ago around the time of the election. Obvious money grab. But it's a great collection of Doonesbury comics. Check it out. Even if you're for Trump, maybe you can just laugh at him a little bit and have some fun with it. That's what I do. But we're going to go ahead and check back in with the chat, which is getting a little out of control. But I like that. I like that people can express their opinions here. And even if they disagree with me and other things, they can put it right here in the chat. And we've got it going on. The only question is, why won't anyone in the chat call in live? So Skype World Crypto Network. And you could talk right now. You could be one of the last two callers on the show today. Otherwise, I don't have any other books at hand other than this Bukowski book, and I might have to read you another Bukowski poem. I like this guy. He shouts back, "You people have been watching too much Alex Jones." But yeah, they're having some fun in the chat. They're going at it. They're having a good time. So that's great. And guy says he's buying supplies from Alex Jones. There's a fire sale going on. You can get all your supplements for cheap. Let's see. Don't trust Ver ever. That's a good one. At least it's back on topic of Bitcoin. Trolls, now is your chance. Skype can't block you. That's true. I'll talk to you guys. It's better if you're not trolling. It's again, everyone's always like, oh, Hillary is so bad. I feel that Trump was really bad. right? So I feel kind of anyone other than Trump. And again, you guys hate Hillary, and that's cool. It's no problem. So he said, guest chat Nerd wants me to read the chat, like giving voice to the sock puppets endlessly typing. Oh, well, I don't know about that. There's a lot of crazy stuff in the chat today. But but I think it's time for a little bit more Bukowski. That's right. Oh, I'm a hidden Democrat. I'm not a hidden Democrat if I say I'm one. Actually, I'm an independent. America's fastest growing political party. It's called Decline to State. Decline to State. Now that's a good political party. Doesn't stand for anything. Oh, I'm not reading that one. Bukowski describing a young girl that lives across the street. No way. Bukowski, 70 years old, in a hot tub. I'm not going to read that one either. And there's some multi-page ones. You guys are lucking out. I'm not finding any good poems that I really want to read. Some of these are really inappropriate, which again, you can read them in your own with the Bukowski book, Sifting Through the Madness for the Word, the Line, and the Way. Here we go. Let's give this one a try. The Simple Truth by Charles Bukowski. You just don't know how to do it. You know that. And you can't do a lot of other useful things either. It's the fault of the way you were raised. Some of it. And you'll never learn now. It's too late. You just can't do certain things. I could show you how to do them, but you still wouldn't do them right. I learned how to do a lot of necessary things when I was a little girl, and I can still do them now. I had good parents, but your parents never gave you enough attention or love, so you never learned how to do certain simple things. I know it's not your fault, but I think you should be aware of how limited you are. Here, let me do that. Now watch me. See how easy it is. Take your time. You have no patience. Now look at you. You're mad, aren't you? I can tell. You think I can't tell? I'm going downstairs now. My favorite TV program is coming on. And don't be mad because I didn't tell you the simple truth about yourself. You want anything from downstairs? A snack? No? Are you sure? Hey, it's Jose again, calling on the phone. How's it going, Jose?
Hey, the people in the chat told me to call in. All right, it wasn't me.
Well, the people in the chat need to call in themselves. I'm not seeing the big barrier to entry here. You have to install the Skype app. You have to get an account. I don't think it's that hard.
I'm like the middleman. I'm like the middleman for the people. You know, people need an on-ramp to get onto the Thomas blockchain. So I guess I'm here.
The on-ramp is they should do it themselves. They should be responsible for themselves. It's responsibility.
I agree with you. That's a very libertarian way of thinking. I totally agree with you. Yeah, you know, people should be held accountable for themselves, and they should have do things for themselves. I totally agree with you. Speaking of which, hey, so what do you think about, let's just talk about like the gold standard, or let's talk about the Bitcoin. Like where are we into Bitcoin to begin with? Why did we, all of us, get into Bitcoin to begin with? Isn't it for freedom? I mean, that's why I got into it.
Well, I think that the biggest problem that we have in the world is money creation. Money is created out of nothing. Money is created endlessly, and money is not created for the good of the people. Whenever they print money, it's not usually something that's going to benefit everyone. So I was attracted to Bitcoin because you can't print the money. It's locked at 21 million units. It never goes up. The government can't print it. The banks can't print it. No one can print it. And even the gold standard, which also can't be printed, can be harmed whenever they find a new gold mine, or when they finally figure out how to pull in one of those asteroids so that we can mine all of the gold in space. Both those are not limited systems. Also, on the other side, Bitcoin's a technology. It's on my phone. It's easy to use. You can send it around the world, even with just a QR code. So that's why I think Bitcoin's interesting and amazing. And that's why I think it's better than all the altcoins, because none of the altcoins get even close to solving the sound money problem. And I'm saying that the sound money problem is a bigger problem than not being able to get your token on the stock market. It's a bigger problem than having a utility token that you have to use Amazon and trading it for an eBay coin when you want to use eBay and complicating the world with 100,000 tokens. That's not the problem we're trying to solve. We're trying to solve the problem of sound money, and Bitcoin solves that problem.
Yeah, I totally agree with you on certain things, not everything, but remember, I'm all about tokenization. I think everything should get tokenized in the right way, and that would allow us all to be, worth something valid, as opposed to, like, for example, we and the people around us and what we do for the world gives us value, as opposed to a government entity or a corporate entity, someone else giving us value. So I'm all about tokenization. I was just talking the other day about, the tokenization of, like, people are like, oh, how are we going to get wheat and oil and all these things on, become tokens? And I'm like, well, they already are. If you look at it, if you look at the stock exchange, if you look at, when you trade these financial products all the time, they already are tokens. They're tokenized in dollars. So now, for example, with the whole thing with the New York Stock Exchange, and all these exchanges around the world accepting Bitcoin, and now by November trading in Bitcoin, that's like, that's a monster news. And I don't, I feel like not many people are really understanding or talking about that. But when the financial system starts to fail us, which was going to be real soon, and we can't use the dollar, we can't use yuan or gold standard or anything like that yet. I think that these people, that are in charge of all these markets around the world, have nipped this in the butt. And they're attacking it in the sense of, like, well, forget it. We have a currency already that works and that people around the world accept. So why not, start trading in in this new currency, which is Bitcoin. And again, I don't know if I brought it up here to you on this show or not, but the whole thing with Starbucks, people are misrepresenting that news. If you go to Bloomberg right now, they're literally putting the news back up there in the correct way, in which, yes, Starbucks will be accepting Bitcoin. They will be accepting Bitcoin for purchases. So how it's going to work is that you're going to go in there, you're going to buy your mocha latte, and when you go to pay the mocha latte, instead of taking out some fiat or your card, what you're going to do is you're going to take out your phone and you're going to go bling, and you're going to pay for it. Now, what they're going to do with Bakkt is that they're going to have like some sort of reserve with Bitcoin in there already. They'll have something set up. We don't know. We'll find out the financial product when we see it. But anyways, it's going to be like a little mini bank in which, your Bitcoin will go in there. It might have the Lightning Network. It might have atomic swaps. Who knows? But at the end of the day, your Bitcoin will get accepted. As soon as it gets accepted, they turn that Bitcoin into fiat. And that fiat is given to the Starbucks employee, which is right there in front of them. And now they can do accounting at the end of the day. And so therefore, you will be able to not just buy coffee with Bitcoin. I think it's going to be a lot greater. I think you might be able to walk in there with Dogecoin or some shit like that and be able to pay for it. Who knows? But I don't see why not. I lived in Seattle. I'm really familiar with Howard Schultz, the Starbucks, how he is as a business person. Also with Bill Gates, what they do, and I think they're creating a monster, and they're keeping it under wraps. So, for example, if you read on Cointelegraph about this story, you see them kind of play it down. But if you read the same story like on Bloomberg.com, they're not playing it down at all. You know what I mean? They're like, hey, this is monster news. Get your money out. You know what I mean? And start investing in this. So I don't know. I mean, I think the future is here, and what we are witnessing right now with, like, for example, the coin market cap, and we're looking at Bitcoin tanking at $6,200 or whatever it's at. Again, this is just like the little bit of the calm before the storm. They're really shaking everybody out, and it might go lower. Who knows? But hey, if anyone has any of this out here to spend, by the way, this is like $5. But anyways, yeah, I would go out there and start buying Bitcoin at any point, because you already know what it's going to be worth. And once this really starts trading, once people at Starbucks all of a sudden, think about it. Think about all the humongous demographic that already goes to Starbucks, and they go to Starbucks just to be cool and be part of a cool thing and that whole thing. And then all of a sudden now, they're going to be introduced to this other cool thing, which is cryptocurrency. And, you don't think that they're going to be using it and trading it like little Pokemon and really taking this thing to the next level? I mean, I don't know. That's what I think about. You know, I know we went off on a rant. I don't even know how we started to get from point A to point B, but fuck it, we're already here.
All right. Well, thanks so much, Jose. And I agree with you. The Starbucks news is really big news. It's impressive to see all these players that used to say Bitcoin was a Ponzi and tulips and no good. It's great to see all of them come to Bitcoin and to get into it, even if it is in their own way with that backed exchange. We're going to go ahead and head towards the end of the show right now. Thanks again to everybody who called in. We had a great time chatting with you. Be sure to give us a thumbs up down below. That really does help YouTube promote this show to other people, and then they can check it out and they can watch it. Episodes where we get more than 100 likes, we generally get more views on. So it's very good to give us a thumbs up and a share, to subscribe down below. Don't forget, after the video renders, to come back and leave a comment. We have a lot of comments here in the chat, but not a lot of comments on the video. So it's a great place to have a discussion after the video is finished, the comments section. And as always, you can support this show by donating Bitcoin or crazy altcoins to the QR codes on your screen. It's great to do this, especially when the market's down. Not a lot of people donate money when the market's down, but if I'm able to hold on to it until the market goes back up, then I have more donations. So thanks so much. And if you don't want to donate Bitcoin or cryptocurrency, you can always sign up with our Patreon campaign with your credit card for as little as $2 a month or $5 a month at patreon.com/WCN or patreon.com/madbitcoins. We'll be back again at 9 o'clock tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Pacific Coast time. We're doing the Bitcoin Talk Show. You can call us on Skype at World Crypto Network. Just have to install the program and give it a try. People are wanting other ways to call. We'll work on offering that, but we don't want to do it if it's too complicated. Anything that complicates the system, it's already very complicated enough. So thanks again for watching. We had a great discussion about the Alex Jones and the censorship and YouTube and Facebook being private property. I don't know if we're going to discuss that tomorrow. It'll probably blow over by then, and we'll go back to talking about Bitcoin. Thanks so much for watching. Until next time, bye-bye.